Again, and welcome back to Introduction to Programming. Today we're going to look at Unit 1, Module 1, Lesson 3, Orange Square, Purple Circle. This is one of my favorite projects because it really shows the power of computer science in iterative programming. You'll see what I mean in a couple minutes. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start a Scratch project and delete all of the sprites. Yep, get rid of them all. You're going to actually draw your own sprite for this. So we're going to go in to the sprite window right here, and over here we're going to click on the little paintbrush, and we're going to draw a new sprite. Okay, so there's your backdrop. This is the button you're clicking on. So we're going to start by choosing a rectangle. So we'll go in, choose a rectangle, and then we're actually going to draw a rectangle onto the screen. Make sure you're choosing that it's a solid rectangle and we want it to be orange. It's important that we're all doing the same color to start. So I want a solid rectangle and I want it to be orange. There we go. I'm going to draw my rectangle. You could choose how big you want it. Doesn't really matter. Just make sure it's a rectangle. You could resize it to change the rectangle so it's more of a square-like shape. So I'm going to change this, because it is called Orange Square Purple Rectangle, so that's more of a square. There we go, pops up on the screen. So now we're going to talk about the two different modes in this program. So the real difference between bitmap mode and vector mode is how the computer actually draws the images. In bitmap mode, the computer has a collection of pixels, little points of color, that are specifically located in certain spots on the screen. In vector mode, the computer has an equation, and it uses that equation to populate a whole bunch of pixels on the screen. The difference is the amount of information the computer has to store. In a vector mode, the computer only has to store the equation. In bitmap mode, the computer has to store the location of every single pixel. In vector mode, you can zoom in on the picture and the computer can just redraw the image without having to store any extra information. In bitmap mode, the computer can zoom in on the image and it gets blurry, and if it wants to get a more focused image, it needs to actually change the image to another image that is more zoomed in and clear. So here's a real life example of this. If we go to Google Earth, so we have Google Earth here, and we start zooming in, not where I want to zoom in. We want to zoom in to New York. Let's go right into New York. There we go. There's New York. We're going to zoom in on Manhattan. Let's see. Let's recenter this. There's Manhattan. So we're zooming in, and notice it's just everything is just getting bigger as we zoom in. There's no point where the screen completely clears and changes. Everything's just getting bigger. We're getting more information as we zoom in. So let's zoom in on the Empire State Building. And eventually we can get all the way down to the actual building itself. They give us this nice kind of block image of it. But the streets are there, and we can keep zooming in until we're essentially right on top of the spire. And we have a pretty good idea of what this spire looks like now. All right, so now I'm going to zoom out. And that's vector mode. And I'm not going to zoom out all the way. We're going to zoom out to about here. And I'm going to switch to Google Earth, which will show me the bitmap mode of the same image. So we actually have a satellite photo of New York. So let me start zooming in. And watch what happens as we get closer. They put the streets in for us. That's nice. We're zooming in. Notice the images are actually different. There weren't houses a second ago, and now there's houses, and now there's even more detail. It's a different image every time. So now, at this point, the buildings are a little blurry until I zoom in another level, and there it goes. It draws in another image. Now, since it's New York, they did something kind of fun. They actually made it 3D and put the images onto the buildings. But if I keep zooming in, let's just do this building here. You notice how the image gets to a point where it's blurry. It's not clear. But if I switch over to the map, oh, actually that one's pretty good. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Probably because it's New York. What I was doing is at my house. There would not be very good imagery. So as we zoom in, we can see that the image, whoops, that's the wrong direction, gets clearer, but it's clear because they're putting on a new picture here. Now, they skip and actually take us to a street view now. So this totally is not satellite anymore. This was a camera that was done with a car. And all of a sudden, the image goes really, really clear. So a second ago, it was blurry because we were still using a satellite image, and there was only so much they could do. And then we switch to the street view, and it becomes a much clearer picture. So in Scratch, we can do the same type of thing. We also get a whole bunch of different controls. On the left-hand side, you can see what controls we have when we are in bitmap mode. Let me move my head a little bit. Come to this side. So in bitmap mode, we have these controls, which include an eraser and some text. And if I erase some of this, what happens is the pixels just go away. And if I zoom in, you can see that we're just talking about blocks. Oops, I think I zoomed in too much. I lost track of where I was. So if we recenter this, there we go. There, better. So I'm going to zoom in, and hopefully I don't lose it. But you can see now it's starting to get pixelated. Oh, I keep losing it because I'm moving it around here. Okay, but you get the idea. There it is. See, it's pixelated. Turn that off. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Hopefully I can find it. There it is. Now you can really see it's pixelated. There we go. So it's kind of got a rough edge to it, and that's what happens when you're in bitmap mode. But we're going to convert it to vector mode and watch what happens. Our image changes, but now if I use, oh, there's no eraser. I can't erase pixels in vector mode because this is a math equation that it's used to draw this shape. So I can change its size and stretch it out. And I can make it bigger and smaller, and I can zoom in. But no matter how much I zoom in, it's not going to change. It's the same shape. But if I take it and I make it bigger, it's not going to change the shape. It still looks exactly the same. Because the computer's really just doing some math and redrawing it. So that's the difference between the vector mode and the bitmap mode. For our purposes, we want to be in vector mode because we're going to change and resize these in code. So draw your orange square and your purple circle in vector mode and pause the video, and we'll come right back to try some more. So hopefully you're able to do that. I'm going to draw it right now. So I'm going to draw my square, create a new sprite. There we go. And I'm going to draw all my circles. I want a purple circle and convert that to vector mode. So we should verify that we're both in vector mode for both the orange square and the purple circle. I'll move them off each other a little bit. Now we're not going to draw anything else. Everything else is going to be done in code. So to change their shape. We have this thing called change color right now, but then there's all these other different options. Fisheye, whirl, pixelate, mosaic, brightness, ghost. So if we use those options in the scripts, and it's under looks, so I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to set it so it's, let's do something different, when the space bar is pressed. Okay, we're going to change this so it is, oh, that changed the color. I want to whirl it. All right, and then when I do the purple circle, let's do it when we click on it. Look at that, when loudness is greater than 10. It actually, that's a new thing. When the sound's too loud, it'll actually change something so it can respond to your voice. That's kind of cool to play with. If you want to play with that, feel free. But I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do, when the sprite's clicked, we're going to make it a fisheye. And then there's something kind of fun you can also do that is a little different. Let me see if I can find it. So if we go to Control and click on the scroll bar and come all the way down, we can have it create a clone of itself. So move this out of the way. So when I click on the sprite, we're going to have it create a clone of itself. When I start as a clone, we're going to have it first move a little bit. Let's have it move, oh, let's say 100 steps. And then we're going to have it change the effect. I like, let's say, mosaic by 25. Let me hit stop. Let's restart this. So now I click on it. Let me move it out of the way here. And you can see what happens is it starts to move. If I move it around the screen, I can move it to different spots and kind of make it like a stamper. And this was all created from just the two shapes. Let me hit the space bar, get the square to do something. What did I do on the square? But this is all created just from those two original sprites. We can get a whole different type of tool here in our program. So if you want to see some other ideas, again, you can go into the studio. So we'll go to our folder, Unit 1, Module 1, Lesson 3, orange square purple circle. And in there you'll see a link to the Orange Square Purple Circle Studio. Feel free to click in there and explore and see all the different kinds of things that people have done with this project. When you're all done with the project, submit it into Blackboard using our assignment and the same process that we've done before. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you're feeling a little stuck, a couple things you can do is try brainstorming with a neighbor. You can create a list of things you'd like to try before you actually start building it. Maybe look at the design journal. You can explore in Scratch to see what other projects people are doing. You can try the clear graphics effects. You can try the forever loops. There's some interesting things that if on edge bounce. You can combine those different effects together to get some really cool things. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.